Hello gamer, this is Mr. Paddlington. Today we are doing a tour of the 3DS eShop, highlighting some of the places where you have to look for games that will disappear once the eShop shuts down. If you love the 3DS, if you love Nintendo, if you found any games, hit me with a comment, like this video and subscribe to this channel. And without further ado, let's have a look at some of the places where you have to look for some hidden gems on the 3DS eShop. Okay, what I'm going to do now is to check out the eShop, because this is like a treasure trove of titles that are amazing and that are probably going to disappear until someone publish them again, or they can in a collection, or who knows what Nintendo is going to do about this. Yes, I think everyone knows what Animal Crossing is. What do we have here? Where's some of the Fire Emblem games? Always amazing games, and then they become very expensive. These two games also, if you try to find them physical, they will be like around $100, maybe less if it's just a card, but you can download them from the eShop until next year. I'm trying to find... What? No, this is... I didn't know this. So on the 3DS there's a section for Sword and Shield, which is actually a Switch game. Interesting, people trying to get Nintendo trying to get people to move to the Switch. So this is one of my favorite sections, because navigation is pretty bad, but this is where some of the interesting historical games are. Especially if you try to get, again, these Pokemon games will set you behind like hundreds of dollars if you try to get them physically. And even some of these games, if you can find them at all. All this old school first Game Boy Color games. Some of these Super Nintendo games now available on the Virtual Console on the Switch as well. Yes, we don't really know what Nintendo is going to do with this classic classic Game Boy games. Let's see if there's anything that I can filter that is useful. Also, you notice how slow this is. Yeah, I kind of filter. I wanted to see if I can filter by console, but I don't think you can. There you go. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. Just want to see if there's anything else. I mean, these are all really good games. I actually recently got this one. So this is the interesting thing. So this game is here for, let's say, $8. The re-release of this game physical is like, for the Switch, for example, it's like $60 or $70. But when this disappears, that's probably the only way you can get it. When the Virtual Console, the eShop disappears, that's the only way to get it. So like I said earlier, remember that if you're interested in any of these Game Boy games, especially, the Super Nintendo games are now available on the Nintendo Online service, most of them. But if you're interested in any of these, Game Gear, I forgot about that. So the Virtual Console on the 3DS also has Game Gear. So if you're interested in any Game Gear, Game Boy Advance games, add some cash, some funds to the eShop before August, and then you will have time until March or so of next year, so to actually buy anything and download anything. So there is some time, but there isn't a lot of time to actually go through all of this. Yeah, always find it to find. Now there was a time where Sega and Nintendo were rivals. Now you can download Game Gear games into a Nintendo console. Cool. So there's a lot of interesting things to go through. Okay, I'm going to keep pressing. Let's keep going and see what else is in here. Is there anything like super interesting here? Some Super Nintendo games, NES games. Again, the NES games are probably, most of them will be available. Can I control this? Yeah, most of this will be available on the Nintendo Online. Yeah, some interesting Game Boy games. Definitely worth checking them out. Oh, Final Fight! I didn't realize Final Fight was here. This is some of the NES games. More Game Gear games. Yeah, there's some. If you are curious about any of these games, if you want to see what they look like without having to buy the hardware and then pay a stupid amount of money for the physical parts, now this is a good option for you. And I'm going to get out of here. So that was the tour of the 3DS eShop, and I'm back. I found something else. So I showed you Outrun before. Again, I'm a big Outrun fan, but Sega had released a whole bunch of other of their classics enhanced in 3D. So some of these games are really good, and you can play them in 3D effect, which again, I sound like a broken record. Once this appears, the only way to get it is getting this 3D Classics collection physically. In the West, there's only one volume. If you get a Japanese 3DS, there's two versions, there's two volumes of the Sega 3D Classics, but remember that the 3DS is region locked, so if you want to get it from Japan, you will need a Japanese 3DS to play it. And here also you have those 3D Nintendo Classics that I mentioned before as well. Cool, so this was some of the 3D classics available on the Nintendo eShop. Actually, we are back on the 3DS because I found something else. DSiWare. Again, some of these games, and I'm not going to go through all of them, from the DSi, so not the 3DS, but the DS era. Some of these games were DSi exclusive. So some, maybe not, maybe even this, like this remake of Mario's Cement Factory Game & Watch, they haven't been ported to anything. They don't exist anywhere else. So once the eShop, the 3DS eShop disappears next year, you won't be able to download this anymore. So it will be interesting to see what does the community do for preservation. Yeah, some of it. Maybe you can leave me a comment which ones of these are worth checking out. But there's quite a lot of them. I'm not going to go through all of that, but yeah, that was something else. That was DSiWare games on the 3DS eShop. The 3DS eShop is closing down, that's a fact. So I point you in some directions where you can look at DSiWare. You can look at some of the 3DS classics, some of the Game Boy Virtual Console. Add funds, download these games now before they disappear. Let Nintendo know that you're interested in each one of them. So what are your thoughts on the eShop closing down? Are you going to buy anything? Do you have any recommendations? Leave me a comment to let me know. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the 3DS eShop. See you next time and keep on collecting.